I hope that you all have been thinking about happiness this weekend and your approach to happiness, how you're going to get it or how you're not going to get it. This information has the power to provoke a major transformation in your life. Just by understanding these points, you can save yourself so much unnecessary heartache, labor, bewilderment. We discussed how there's no point in your striving for happiness because it will come automatically in the correct karmic proportion, just like your distress comes automatically. But still, some of you may be thinking that even though we may know this now, we cannot restrain ourselves from trying for happiness. We are hardwired, you know? We have to try to grab it. Just like a child who's addicted to sitting at a campfire and trying to grab the smoke. So we are so heavily programmed that we must act for our happiness. As I promised, if you still want to try for your happiness, then there is an authorized way given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, first, you need to develop transcendental knowledge. What is transcendental knowledge? It's that knowledge which is about things beyond the temporary. Transcendental knowledge means knowledge concerning things outside the reach of time and space. Particularly, transcendental knowledge, Divya Gyan, refers to understanding you, the individual soul, and the Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, as well as the relationship between the two. When you have that kind of knowledge, it does things. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that the fire of transcendental knowledge burns. There's nothing theoretical about a fire burning something. So the kind of knowledge that we are discussing this weekend actually does things to your life. It's not like a religious belief. We didn't bring you here this weekend to impart to you religious beliefs. We came together to discuss the knowledge that can actually do things in your life, produce major transformations. Just like fire, it's not theoretical or theological. It does things. So it's a very important example that Krishna uses, the fire of transcendental knowledge. Krishna also uses an example of a boat. When you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you'll be able to cross over the ocean of difficulties. So a boat also is not theoretical, it's not theological, it's not religious. A boat has the practical purpose of transporting you from point A to point B. So this knowledge, which is the greatest treasure of the world, has the power to transform your life, the life of your family, the life of your society. We're going to focus on a particular effect of transcendental knowledge. Krishna explains that with transcendental knowledge you can make your mind steady. I wonder how many of you realize that it's the unsteady mind that is driving on your illusions. The whole consumer society that we saw is based on an unsteady mind. Anyone here in marketing? No one. The whole approach of marketing is based on dealing with people who have unsteady minds. Then you can just impart to them so many artificial desires and unnecessary wants. So marketers, they want an unsteady mind amongst everyone. Because an unsteady mind, it can do anything. It has no anchor. It has no ultimate goal. But with transcendental knowledge, the unsteady mind becomes steady. Try to look at your life and see so many circumstances in which your unsteady mind got you into trouble. Your mind convinced itself that it saw something that would be good for you, or that would make you happy, that would make you more content. And so you pursued what the mind presented to you. And you found out that you were cheated, you were bewildered. You caused yourself so much anxiety, distress, even doing yourself bodily and mental harm. All of our material existence is based on the mind. You have your particular body because your mind is like a template for the gross body to be built upon. The mentality of your previous life attracts a certain kind of gross physical body. This is also explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So let's go through the sequence. First, transcendental knowledge. Then your mind becomes steady. Instead of your mind being like a flickering candle, it becomes steady, like a candle burning very nicely. So then, Krishna says, with a steady mind, you can have peace. And finally, because you have peace, real peace, you can then think about happiness. Now, people in materialistic society know nothing about this sequence. They think happiness is out there. Just grab it, right? It's there waiting for you. Isn't that what all the adverts say and the movies say? Bollywood, Hollywood. It's there. That person is grabbing it. You should grab it too. How much happiness can you grab at once? Why just a handful of happiness? Get truckloads of happiness. Shipping container loads of happiness. And just see the success people are having. They're not getting it. So if you want to try for happiness, you follow Krishna's formula. First, get transcendental knowledge. Then your mind becomes steady. With a steady mind, you can have peace. And then you can look for happiness. So how many of you are willing to go through that sequence? All right, you're hardwired. You can't give up the pursuit of happiness. So this is what you have to do then. Of course, if you pursue happiness Krishna's way, gradually you'll realize that you don't have to pursue happiness. So this is the alternative method. The best way is not to worry about happiness. But you have these habits. So then qualify yourself to get happiness. Develop transcendental knowledge. Make your mind steady. Then you'll be peaceful. So Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, without a steady mind, there'll be no peace. And without peace, how can there be happiness? It's hard for people to admit they're not peaceful. They're restless and tormented and possessed by so many artificial desires. They're caught up in the mode of passion, Rajaguna, full of desires for material prosperity. They work hard in difficult jobs, many hours of the day. It is not possible to become peaceful through economics, through prosperity. Economic prosperity does not bring peace. This is why Arjuna, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, said that he doesn't see how any good can come out of the battle of Kurukshetra. He said, even if I win an unrivaled kingdom on earth, or even if I have sovereignty, if I have majestic power like the demigods in heaven, still, that won't drive away my grief. So what does Arjuna mean by this? He's saying, no amount of economic power and prosperity and security will make me peaceful. But we want to prove Arjuna wrong, right? Did you ever wonder about this statement in Bhagavad Gita? He says, no unrivaled kingdom on earth, not even power like the demigods in heaven, will bring me peace. And what do we say? Oh, forget about the unrivaled kingdom on earth, or the power like the demigods in heaven. Just give me a nice Mercedes. That'll bring me peace. So Arjuna's point is that no amount of economic prosperity will make you peaceful. You can't buy peace. And without peace, what does Krishna say? No possibility of happiness. So how are you going to become mentally peaceful? What is your plan? Since you all want to be happy, even though you know that you cannot increase your material happiness, still, you want to try for it. Okay, then. You have to first figure out how you're going to have inner peace. Because before happiness comes inner peace. And before inner peace comes a steady mind. And in order to have a steady mind, you need transcendental knowledge, which will prevent you from distorting yourself. So now I hope finally you can see the whole picture. What you need to do to become qualified. You can become a happiness engineer if you know the process. Don't be like the fools who think happiness is just there for anyone to grab. Beg it, borrow it, steal it. It's just out there. So maybe you pursue happiness in a gross way, elbowing everyone out the way. Get out of the way, I've got to get what I want. Or maybe you pursue happiness in a very respectful, cultured way. Excuse me, would you mind if I step forward to take this happiness? Or even, I'll wait for you to take your share of happiness, and then I will grab my share. So there's the rough, gross way, and there's the cultured way. But both are mistaken. Where are your preliminary qualifications? Where's your transcendental knowledge? Where's your steady mind? Where's your peace? So how many of you are willing to go through this sequence? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you are willing to say, no point in even trying to be happy. It's going to come automatic. Raise your hand. All right, let's hear from the Pingala Gita, the Song of Pingala. Aho mayatma paritapito vrita sanketya vrityati vagarhya vartaya strainan radadyarta trisho nusotyat kritena vitam ratam atmanichati. Oh, how I have uselessly tortured my own soul. I have sold my body to lusty, greedy men who are themselves objects of pity, thus practicing the most abominable profession of a prostitute. I hope to get money and sex pleasure. Well, this morning we discussed the wider implications of Pingala's song. We can put ourselves in her place, even though our occupation is not exactly the same. Nevertheless, the mentality of the whole world is of torturing your own soul, selling yourself to lusty, greedy persons who employ you. And you know those persons are objects of pity. They're miserable. But still, you have to sell your body and mind to them. So Pingala is saying, oh, how I've uselessly tortured my own soul. And the goals that society today offers everyone, it's the same as Pingala's goals. She says, I hope to get money and sex pleasure. So whether one is cultured or a ruffian, the bottom line is the same. Let us try to see how we're distorting our existence, ruining our human form of life by pursuing unnecessary things. And we're going through unnecessary complications and difficulties, all because we think happiness is there for the grabbing. In effect, we're saying, I'm willing to pay the price. I'm willing to torture myself just so I can get the happiness. Next. She gives a graphic description of the body, comparing it to a house. This material body is like a house in which I, the soul, am living. The bones forming my spine, ribs, arms, and legs are like the beams, cross beams, and pillars of the house. And the whole structure, which is full of stool and urine, is covered by skin, hair, and nails. The 9 doors leading into this body are constantly excreting foul substances. Besides me, what woman could be so foolish as to devote herself to this material body, thinking that she might find pleasure and love in this contraption? So she's referring to the 9 gates of the body, the 9 doors. Krishna talks about them in Bhagavad Gita, Nava Dwaram Pare Dehi. Krishna is going to teach you in Bhagavad Gita how to live happily in the city of 9 gates. That's another way of referring to the body, with its 9 openings. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth, anus, genital, 9 altogether. How do you live happily in that city with those 9 gates? That requires transcendental knowledge. But who thinks like that? Our common thinking is, I have my body, let me enjoy it. Let me satisfy the 9 gates. We don't understand that this human form of life has a purpose, a very high and sacred purpose, because the human body gives you the developed consciousness by which you can understand what is God. So Pingala is saying, What woman could be so foolish as to devote herself to this material body? How can she think that she might find pleasure and love in this bodily machine? She can look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, how is it I think that this thing I'm seeing in the mirror is going to bring me pleasure and love? And why am I willing to work so hard for this thing I'm seeing in the mirror that's here today and gone tomorrow? We're learning a lot from Pingala in her Gita. Next. Certainly in this city of Videha, I alone am completely foolish. I neglected the Supreme Personality Godhead, who awards us everything, even our original spiritual form. And instead, I desired to enjoy sense gratification with many men. She wanted to be popular. She wanted to feel wanted, appreciated, sought after. Those are the desires of a conditioned soul. Both gross sense gratification and subtle sense gratification. You see, the subtle sense gratification is fame and adoration, social prestige. Out of humility, she's saying, certainly in this whole city, I alone am completely foolish. Actually, unfortunately, the whole world today is full of such fools. Why would we neglect Krishna? Because we're not aware of what Krishna gives. We think that we should surrender to material nature. That will be the best use of our life. So we work hard, we study hard, we make alliances, friendships, families, all to get the happiness and to be respected for our pursuit of happiness. And the world gives you a false sense of honor, patting you on the back. You're pursuing happiness. Very good, very good. Race on. Keep the race going. And generation after generation happens like that. You know, like in the relay races in the Olympics. Your grandparents pass the baton to your parents. Your parents pass the baton to you. Even sometimes when your ancestors, they're about to leave this world, they say words like, I could not finish the race, now I'm passing everything to you. You take the baton of material pleasure. You try to get it. Continue the race. We are going, we are leaving. They don't know where they're going, but still, they're passing the baton to you. They may even tell you, do something wonderful, become famous, make a big impact in the world. We will not be here to see it. We are moving on, but you please, do something big. And then they go, and where they go, they don't know. And you don't know where they go. So in this way, the race is passed from generation to generation. But out of humility, Pingala is saying, I alone in this whole city am completely foolish. Neglecting Krishna, who gives us everything, even our original spiritual form. You see, the material body is covering your spiritual form. Matter is a temporary covering of the soul. Our real existence is in the spiritual world, in our original spiritual forms with Krishna, the supreme spiritual form. But we've forgotten this. We're so absorbed in chasing the illusion. Now she explains, The Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolutely the most dear one for all living beings, because he is everyone's well-wisher and Lord. He is the Supreme Soul, situated in everyone's heart. Therefore, I will now pay the price of complete surrender, and thus purchasing the Lord, I will enjoy with him, just like Lakshmi Devi. So she's understanding now the science of real pleasure. Let me do things Krishna's way. That's what complete surrender means. I'll do things according to Krishna's instruction. And that way, I'll earn the right, I'll purchase the right to associate with the Lord, just like Lakshmi Devi does. How can we be convinced that Krishna is everyone's well-wisher? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, this is the peace formula. When you know three things, that Krishna is the supreme proprietor, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and Krishna is the supreme friend. When you actually know that, you'll finally become peaceful, and you won't feel the kicks of material nature. Men provide sense gratification for women, but all these men, and even the demigods in heaven, have a beginning and end. They are all temporary creations who will be dragged away by time. Therefore, how much actual pleasure or happiness could any of them ever give to their wives? This is why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna instructs you, don't waste your time worshiping the demigods. They're temporary, and what they give is temporary. So Pingala is echoing that point. All these personalities, whether men in this world or demigods in heaven, have a beginning and an end. They'll be dragged away by time. So how can they give anything of value? What do you think? When marriage arrangements are made, you should say to your prospective partner, well, I know that everything you're going to give me is going to be dragged away by time, and you yourself are going to be dragged away by time. What do you think? No one wants to hear that. They want to hear plans for permanent happiness and what you're going to do to bring about permanent happiness. But if you tell the truth, you'll have to stay like Pingala. You have to tell your prospective partner, you are a temporary creation who will be dragged away by time. Therefore, how much actual pleasure or happiness can you give me? Of course, if you are working together as a family to satisfy Krishna, then you can do a lot for each other. You can do great benefit for each other. In Bhakti, we learn how to use everything in Krishna's service. His temporary body, our temporary family relationships, everything can bring about an eternal purpose when we act according to Krishna's instructions. That is complete surrender to Krishna. Simply following Krishna's user guide. Why should we be afraid? Who can give a good reason or a reason why we should be afraid of Krishna's user guide? No reason? Everyone is ready to follow the user guide? No fear? You going to say something, Nityananda Priya?
The fear is maybe my happiness will not be met.
Well, how are you meeting it now? That's the point. Right now you're not getting any real happiness. So then why are you afraid that Krishna will shortchange you in terms of happiness? You're already being shortchanged. So all you can do is get an improvement. You're already losing. Things can only get better, not worse. You see, the kind of happiness that Krishna gives is through devotional service. It doesn't come from material nature. It's material nature that shortchanges you, promises you so much, and never delivers. So the question to ask yourself is why we trust material nature and we don't trust Krishna. Anyone? Why? Think about it. It's like this little child approaching the mother, trusting the mother. You're supposed to know what I want. You're supposed to give me what I want. But we act like that in terms of when we deal with material nature. Material nature is supposed to know what we want and give us what we want, right? We have education, we have job. Okay, where is it? Give us what we want. We say like that to material nature. We have hopes that we want fulfilled. But remember, the main point of the Pingala story, her Gita, is that hopes for material happiness cause so many problems. Just like she was lingering at her doorway, showing her Uttamarupa. So we linger at the doorway of material existence. Please, happiness, come, 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 come. We put ourselves forward in that way. Now you're going to see a change in Pingala. Although I most stubbornly hoped to enjoy the material world, somehow or the detachment has arisen in my heart, and it is making me very happy. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, must be pleased with me. Without even knowing it, I must have performed some activity satisfying to him. She's recognizing that the spirit of detachment that arose in her is a benediction. It's some special mercy. And we explained this morning how she got that special mercy by associating with sadhus who came to her door. They were going door to door in her neighborhood of the city, and she took some instruction from them. Even though it was just momentary, by their mercy, their kripa, she, in her crisis, was able to manifest the spirit of detachment. Now let me add that in the beginning, this coming to Krishna because you want material relief is good. But gradually we have to move our bhakti to a more secure foundation of positive attraction for Krishna. In the beginning, so many of us are weary of material life. We've been cheated so many times, disappointed, frustrated. So we come to Krishna looking for relief. That's okay. But gradually, we need to develop positive reasons why we are practicing bhakti. We want to please Krishna. And that motivation is far beyond just trying to escape material misery. Have you ever wanted to please someone? It's such a powerful motivation. And of course, Krishna says that more powerful than pleasing him directly is pleasing his devotee. Hopefully this weekend you all have performed some activities satisfying to Krishna. You're hearing about Krishna. You're taking food offered to Krishna. You're chanting Hare Krishna. So in that way, the next time crisis comes, hopefully you'll be able to manifest a spirit of detachment, just like Pingala. Who will say crisis never comes? It's coming all the time. That's why we are uncertain and fearful. What problems, what crises will tomorrow bring? What will the economy be like? What further occupations will they remove from the PR list? On and on, the complications go, the crises. But a devotee knows how to profit in any situation, so-called crisis or not. The devotee profits by using everything for Krishna's service. So-called gain, so-called loss. Materially, that has no meaning for a devotee, because everything a devotee does is for Krishna's pleasure. A person who has developed detachment can give up the bondage of material society, friendship, and love. And a person who undergoes great suffering gradually becomes, out of hopelessness, detached and indifferent to the material world. Thus, due to my great suffering, such detachment awoke in my heart. Yet, how could I have undergone such merciful suffering if I were actually unfortunate? Therefore, I am in fact fortunate and have received the mercy of the Lord. He must somehow or other be pleased with me. So this weekend has been designed to make everyone fortunate. And it is true that to gather here to learn the transcendental knowledge, to gather here and reconnect with Krishna means that you've gotten the greatest fortune. It's the most important thing that you've done in your life. Those of you who are here for the first weekend experience. You can make such a transformation now that you'll regain your original glory as part of Krishna. And you'll be able to help others become glorious. Pingala continues. With devotion, I accept the great benefit the Lord has bestowed upon me. Having given up my sinful desires for ordinary sense gratification, I now take shelter of Him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So will we take shelter of Krishna?
Yes.
What reasons do we have to delay? There must be some reasons to go slow, to delay, yes? Who can say? Now is not the time. Why? Come on, raise your hand. Now is not the time for approaching Krishna because
health.
huh?
Health. Health.
Health?
Yes.
You have bad health. So bhakti is dependent on
Chanting.
good health.
Getting up, chanting.
Getting up and chanting. So you never get up, is that it?
No, I get up, but not that early, so I can be late.
All right, well, get up when you can, according to your judgment right now, and chant. And then gradually, your consciousness will become purified, and you'll see how to get up earlier. If you go to sleep earlier, you'll get up earlier, right? Or is it too much TV at night? So even if your health is not good, still, you can chant Hare Krishna. Bhakti is not dependent on any material situation. Nevertheless, I'm asking, what are the reasons to delay? Why is now not the time?
Age.
Huh?
Age.
You're too young, right? Yes? Young age is meant for what?
Bhakti.
Huh?
Bhakti.
Party.
Bhakti.
Huh?
Bhakti. Bhakti.
Oh. Didn't you say party first? But it's true, many think like that. You're too young to approach Krishna, right? You have things you need to do first, right? Things you need to experience. Bhakti is for when you're older, right? 60, 70. The fear is that if you approach Krishna now when you're young, you'll miss out on a lot of action, right? Now is the time for building a career, yes? And because you're certain to live a long life, then when you're 60 and 70, you can worry about your enlightenment. No one in this world dies before 70. We all know that, right? And you're too nice to die early, right? Early death is for others. You're so nice and your plans are so good, right? Material nature won't touch you. Death is for the others. Early death is for other persons. Do you feel like you're going to die? No. How many here feel like they're going to die? No. It will happen far off into the future. So far away you don't even have to think about it now. Things might have happened to your grandparents or even your parents, but that's not you. So therefore we tell ourselves that now is not the time for bhakti. Now is the time for career development, making money, taking out mortgages, yes? All right, you have to maintain your body. Krishna knows that. You can do that. But it's not the most important part of your life. So, yes, develop your career, take out a mortgage, but the main thing is to be Krishna conscious. So we're not saying no mortgage, no career. So what other excuse can you have? What about relatives and family? They don't like this.
Fear about being set as a social outcast if you follow family traditions that are based upon acquiring material happiness like that.
That you'll be an outcast in your family because you're not a materialist anymore.
Well, because they've been feeding back from day one that material happiness is something that is acquired. Now you turn into Krishna consciousness. The fear about what will the family and relatives think?
Where are they?
Back at home in India.
So what they don't know won't hurt them. You have to be practical. you told them everything you've done in Australia? How many have told their parents and family back home in India everything you've done in Australia? Raise your hand. But suddenly when it comes to Krishna, oh, I cannot become Krishna conscious because what will my family think when I tell them? That didn't stop you from doing so many things. This is all bogus. When it comes to serving Krishna, suddenly, oh, but my family, you see, I don't want to disappoint them. But you did so many things in Australia, never told your family. Okay, any other reasons why now is not the time to read Bhagavad Gita and practice it? Another reason, please. Yes.
Motivation.
You don't have the motivation.
The material motivates more than the spiritual things.
But with your intelligence, just like Pingala, you can understand the material motivation. How unsuccessful and frustrating it is. What happens to your mind when you pursue material goals? You get so stressed out, right? Full of anxiety. What is the only material solution offered for your stress and anxiety? Who knows? Intoxication. So just see, I always explain this. You have an edge in getting jobs because the employers in Australia think, people from India, they'll be very dependable, they'll be hardworking, they'll be very loyal, they won't come to the job drunk on Monday, they won't be bringing so many anxieties from family problems, they won't bring that to work, divorce or this, that, the other. So you get that advantage when looking for a job. But then when you get the job, you're filled with so much stress and anxiety. And without a spiritual solution, your only alternative is intoxication, which will destroy the original advantage that you had. And you can start to see that happening now, yes? So you have one foot up. You have the advantage because of no intoxication. But then you take on all the stress and anxiety, and sooner or later you have to turn to intoxication, and then you lose the advantage, your children lose the advantage. So either you take the nectar from Krishna, or you must surrender to intoxication. Because you can't handle the stress and anxiety otherwise. Any other reasons why now is not the time to follow Krishna's user's guide? Ladies, anything? Yes.
Can't I have material desires along with Krishna consciousness? Can't I have material desires along with Krishna consciousness?
Like what, for example?
Like I chase my dreams as well. And
like what? Which dreams do you chase? That's a good expression, I like it.
Like I have to make my own career, I have to, because I'm doing everything by my own, I have to do everything by myself.
Yes.
So can't I have Krishna consciousness along with chasing my other dreams? I don't have to detach from one too.
So the dream you're talking about is career, yes?
Career and settling down and all that stuff.
Settling down. How?
Settling down in career in life, marriage.
Well, there's so many devotees who are married and who have careers here. Okay?
So we can have a balance of both.
Huh?
We can have a balance of both.
Yes, you should marry, you should have a career. but it's not the main thing in life, okay? Just because devotees say career is not the main thing doesn't mean that they're lazy at work. You understand? I think there's that misunderstanding that because it's not the priority, it's not the main thing, therefore devotees must be lazy at work. No, it's not so. They can put in the proper effort even though it's not the main thing of their life. You understand? As for marriage, well, there are always men who want to marry. I don't know if we have a room full of future brahmacharis here. Any? Raise your hand, please. Huh? Where? 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 Who's pointing? Let me see. You see? So many candidates for marriage. Where do all these children come from that are running around? No, really, answer me. Where do the children come from? Do they drop from the sky? So there is a proper way to live in the material world by following the user's guide from Krishna. So while you're pursuing marriage and career, remember, number one, you need transcendental knowledge, so you have a steady mind. With a steady mind, you'll be peaceful, and then with peace, you can be happy. Okay? You willing to do all that? All right, you come to the right place. Any other reasons why now is not the time? Oh, you know everything. You've been around for a while. Please, a good excuse. Everyone is convinced that there's no good excuse? How about this one? How can you be sure that this is the way? How many like that excuse? Raise your hands. Come on, come on. Yeah. If you follow Krishna's instructions, you'll see the result. How could you be sure that Australia was here when you first left India? You followed the process to come here and you got the result. So similarly, if you follow Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita, you'll get the result. I always explain. A couple of weeks ago I was speaking at Stanford University. And I was telling students that nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna say, just believe in me. That verse is not there. Everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives you the process for verifying what he says. Now, isn't that fair enough? If this is Australia, there should be a process for verifying that. So you came from India and verified that Australia exists. Similarly, you can go from the material world to the spiritual world to verify that Krishna exists. That verification begins now, even while you're in the material world. How many of you relished the prasad that's served? Yes. Now you've tasted such ingredients before, but there was something special, yes? Yes. Because the food is offered to Krishna. So already your tongue is verifying that Krishna exists. And the more you engage your tongue in serving Krishna, the more you'll realize that Krishna does exist. But you have to follow the process. So are we out of excuses now? What would you like to do first before becoming Krishna conscious? Who can say? First I must do what?
Dandavat pranam to you.
I would prefer, instead of Dandavat Pranam, I'd prefer following instructions Pranam. Dandavats can be very cheap, you know? Good exercise, you know?
Easier.
But the real purpose of Dandavat means I'm accepting your instruction. And of course, it's not my instruction I'm giving. I'm simply saying what Krishna says. That is the duty of a genuine teacher, to say what Krishna says. Nothing more, nothing less. So nothing you have to do first? First career, first marriage, first PR.
Have complete faith that this is the appropriate way for happiness.
First you have to have complete faith.
In
What does
you're doing.
complete faith mean?
You need to understand that this is like, even though you're doing some kind of small sacrifice from your end, but this is going to give you a lot more than what you expect.
You've got to be convinced of the payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you recognize, as he said, even though you're just doing a little bit for Krishna, still you want to be sure the payoff is big.
Like, like you can be selfish, like thinking that you're going to get something a lot more than you expect. So that, like, why not dedicate some little amount of time for this?
Oh, so you want to make sure it's good business.
Yeah, you
You
can
give
take it.
Krishna a little, and he gives a lot.
No, Maharaj, it's like you can initially, like if you're so neophyte, you can think it that way. So that you can, at least rather than going around and here and there, you can dedicate some of your time for Krishna consciousness.
You can dedicate some of your time for Krishna consciousness. Why? Why?
Is that the
You're a young man from Mumbai. You could be doing so many other things. So why are you doing this? Why are you practicing bhakti?
It's like Srila Prabhupada says, is the ultimate goal of life.
Ultimate goal of life. Yes, unless your mind has an ultimate goal, it will always be disturbed. There'll be no anchor to your mind and you'll drive yourself crazy. No peace, therefore how can there be happiness? Just think what it's like to have a tortured, restless mind. Let's do this. No, let's do that. Let's go here. No, let's go there. Try this. Try that. Watch this television show. Go to this movie. Buy this. Sell that. Oh, it's misery, isn't it? Isn't there a better life than that? All right, let's continue with the Pingala Gita. the big change. I am now completely satisfied and have full faith in the Lord's mercy. Therefore, I will maintain myself with whatever comes of its own accord. I shall enjoy life with only the Lord, because He is the real source of love and happiness. Next. The intelligence of the living entity is stolen away by activities of sense gratification, and thus he falls into the dark well of material existence. Within that well, he is then seized by the deadly serpent of time. Who else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead could save the poor living entity from such a hopeless condition? Can you feel that? You're in a well, and then you're seized by the deadly serpent of time while you're trapped at the bottom of a well? All right, let's get some further knowledge. When the living entity sees that the entire universe has been seized by the serpent of time, he becomes sober and sane, and at that time detaches himself from all material sense gratification. In that condition, the living entity is qualified to be his own protector. So, some very important points here. In the previous verse, she says, you should see yourself in a well being pounced on by the deadly serpent of time. Now Pingala is saying you should see the entire universe caught in the jaws of the serpent of time. When you see like that, you're actually seeing. Knowing all this is Divya Gyan, this is transcendental knowledge. Knowing all this, you are then qualified to be your own protector. This is how to look out for yourself. How to protect your self-interest. Without this knowledge, how can you protect yourself? How can you do yourself any good? You'll put yourself in so many crazy situations. All right, the conclusion. The Avaduta said, thus, her mind completely made up, Pingala cut off all her sinful desires to enjoy sex pleasure with lovers, and she became situated in perfect peace. Then she sat down on her bed. Finally, material desire is undoubtedly the cause of the greatest unhappiness, and freedom from such desire is the cause of the greatest happiness. Therefore, completely cutting off her desire to enjoy so-called lovers, Pingala very happily went to sleep. So I hope that Pingala has taught you something, and that you'll remember this Pingala Gita. Remembering this part of Srimad Bhagavatam will save you from driving yourself crazy in the material world. Are there any last questions before we end our weekend with Kirtan? Yes.
Gurudev,
Behind you. You are around all the time, right?
no, it's not a question, but you said
What?
5 things doctors and
5 regrets.
regrets.
Next time. Next retreat. Yes?
Like in this one, Pingala has made that decision of from material to spiritual world. By this story, it sounds like within a matter of a day's time. Does that indicate a different kind of personality that she had or she possessed?
it indicates that even though she was a prostitute, she was much smarter than people today.
Yes. That's what exactly I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yes.
So does it need that kind of, you need to go down that much to come up? Does it?
No, you're just seeing that even though she's a prostitute, she's much smarter than the persons today. So maybe persons today cannot do this in one night like she did. She was that shrewd to analyze the situation. And plus she had associated briefly with sadhus who came to her door and gave her some instruction. So maybe people today aren't that sharp. It won't take them one night. It may take several nights, several months, even a couple of years. I myself read Srila Prabhupada's books 4 hours a day for 6 months straight before I went to a temple one time.
Doesn't this indicate that you have to give up your profession?
Huh?
Doesn't this story indicate that you have to give up your profession to follow the path of bhakti?
If you're a prostitute. But if you have an honorable profession, use it to serve Krishna's senses. Learn how to work for Krishna. Okay?
Or to put it other way, like, would that mean that once you have the transcendental knowledge, then you automatically leave the profession?
Once you have transcendental knowledge, you automatically leave the profession. Is that what Arjuna does in Bhagavad Gita? No. Krishna told him, Ma manushma yudhyam cha, fight and think of me. Dedicate all your activities, Krishna said, to my pleasure. Whatever you're doing in this world that's legitimate and honest, you do it for Krishna's pleasure.
It's very hard to find something legitimate, which is as pure as what Arjuna was doing.
No. Even Krishna admits in Bhagavad Gita, every endeavor in this world has some taint. Just like with fire, there's always some smoke. Businessmen, they have to always pretend like they're not making any profit. In your occupation, you always have to be diplomatic. Right? When you go for the job interview, you tell them how great you are and how you can solve all the problems, right? So please drop this idea that you have to give up your occupation in order to practice bhakti. There's so many examples. That's not so.
The reason for asking,
Yes?
Any profit-making profession will be associated with the material world, right? If you have any profit-making job, profession, honorable profession.
Yes. But also, you can be a sannyasi and you're associated with the material world. I travel on airplanes. That's associated with the material world. But what is my purpose? Similarly, if you have a profit-making job, make profit for Krishna. As Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of the Gita, those who try to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. If you have a family, make the family Krishna conscious. If you want to marry, then help your spouse to be Krishna conscious. do everything as an offering to Krishna. So please let us drop this fear that if I take up bhakti, I must give up my studies, give up my career. If you are going to be a brahmacharya or sannyasi, but that's very rare and very different. Those are the specialists in the field. Every field needs specialists. But otherwise, 99%, they need a job, they need family, home. That's okay. You take it, but you keep Krishna in the center. All right? I have reassured you completely now? All right, okay. So many times we have, when some of our boys here, they take to bhakti, their parents come flying in from India. Oh no. My boy is chanting Hare Krishna. He's going to the mandir more than just for Janmashtami. He's going to become a brahmachari. And we have to reassure them, no, it's not like that. This fear goes very deep, doesn't it? It's unnecessary fear. The parents, I notice, are starting to get more sophisticated now. When they fly over from India, they see, oh, actually, my boy, he's doing nicely. He's not drinking. He's not going to nightclubs. And he's also doing his career. Then they get very clever. Swami, you have done so much for my boy. You have any nice Indian girls he can marry? You have done so much, but you can also do this. Of course, if they're Gujarati, then they say, no, any Gujarati girls. Then they become more liberal after 1 year. Okay, Swami, any Indian girl. And then finally, when they become very liberal, Swami, whoever you think is best. So the parents are starting to catch on that this is a good thing. I was in Sydney and one parent of a devotee came to see me. I had just seen the parent's son in the USA, and the son had just gotten, for the second quarter in a row, had gotten the top employee award for his IT firm. So he gets a plaque and a $200 bonus, and so the parents, they knew that. So when I came to Sydney, they came to meet me, and oh, Swami, you're doing so good work. Our boy has really become something. 2 quarters in a row, he has gotten the top employee award at his IT firm. Very good, son. Whereas before, they were wondering, what is this bhakti? He's not a sadhu. What's become of our boy? But now they see, 2 quarters in a row, top employee. Well, this bhakti is very good. Yes, they were very happy. Swami, we want to give you donation so that your work may increase. All right. Are we ready for kirtan? Yes. Okay.